All right, welcome to the Ravit Show. We are here at Snowflake Summit and it's day 4. Super excited to have Doris and Yusuf with me. Doris, first of all, very nice to meet you in person. Finally, it's been just online on LinkedIn, but always good to meet, the people that you meet online in person. And I know you all have been busy for the last 4 days with so many customers, developers, the community. I'm kind of excited to learn a little about that, LLMs, all of those things. But just for our audience, would you like to quickly introduce yourself? Tell us more about what you do at Snowflake.
Yeah, Ravi, thank you so much for having us on the
Yeah,
show.
for sure.
So I'm Doris Lee. I'm a product manager at Snowflake. I do a lot of our Python developer experiences. You probably heard a lot of that announcement at Summit, Snowflake Notebooks, Snowpark Pandas. Those are some of the areas that I'm covering, and I'm super excited for the interview today.
Thank you.
And I'll hand it over to Yusuf.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Great to be here. My name is Yusuf. I am an engineering lead in Snowflake, and I lead the Copilot and Cortex Analyst teams, and also I'm a lead in the Arctic project on the research side as well.
Okay, that's awesome. Also, today's topic, I was more inclined towards learning a little about LLMs and how it all works. So I wanted to learn a little about, can you discuss the factors that influence the choice between, fine-tuning an open source LLM and using an existing model API? So Yusuf, would you like to share something
I can
on
take
that?
one. Yes,
Yeah?
of course. One thing that I would mention there is the application you build on for example, a closed source API
Right.
is you're basically adding your own code, but then you are dependent on the closed source API and what happens to it in the next version, for
Right,
example.
right.
If you are fine tuning an open source LLM, you can basically keep that IP, and it will be in your control whether you change the shape of the applications or not, for
Right,
example.
right.
And another thing to call out is usually with open source LLMs, the data and the data sources are a bit more clear. And with fine tuning, you're also clear on what you use for fine tuning as well. So the expectations from a fine tuned open source LLM is a little bit more clear as well.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Can you share some examples of open source that has impacted model bias, awareness, code security, or maybe talent attraction? Or
Doris,
maybe Doris
wanna
would
take
want
this
to
one?
share?
Yeah, definitely. I think open source AI. We talked about this in the talk. Like, it shares a lot of commonality with
Right.
like open source software. Like, think about Linux Foundation. Think about Python. All of the good stuff that has been brewing in the open source community. I think one thing that is different across the two is that we think about like open source AI, right? It's not just about like, hey, we're gonna put our code on GitHub and that's end of story.
Yeah.
It's about making that accessible, making open APIs for people to call, making sure that we have things like Arctic cookbooks where we share reproducible data sets and examples of what are the steps. What are the secret sauce that goes into building, making the magic happen?
Right.
So I think that is another crucial component when we're talking about like open source AI. That is, kind of different from just open source software in general.
Yeah, okay, those are fantastic insights. Quickly, also, just since we are on this topic, I'm kind of curious to know a little about the AI stack considerations as well. So can you share about the key considerations when assembling a scalable or reproducible open source Gen AI stack? Any thoughts around that?
Yeah, so I think as I mentioned earlier, there's a lot of benefits in being in the open, building on open source. I think one of the best aspects of sort of like the rise of LLMs that we have seen is basically like we're building good abstractions, right? Like not everyone needs to be an expert in LLMs to be able to use LLMs.
Right.
The fact that we have these like APIs and stuff makes it so much more accessible, and then it frees up like application developers. Like, doesn't matter what industry you're in, maybe like healthcare, maybe in finance, you get to build these chatbots, models, and things on top of that.
True.
So I think that's the area that I'm most excited about, because we now have LLMs that are democratized and for everyone.
Okay, those are fantastic insights.
Yeah,
Thanks
and
for
I don't know
sharing
Yusuf, you want to
Yeah,
add
Yusuf.
some? Okay.
Okay, we're good.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, also quickly wanting to learn a little about the pre-training acceleration, right? That plays a very important role. So, can you explain how accelerating pre-training contributes to AI application performance? Maybe Yusuf, you might have some insights around that.
I can talk a little bit about that. So pre-training actually involves massive amounts of data.
Right.
And to actually get to the state where you have confidence in the data that you're using, you have to run many small scale experiments called ablations. So you have to process this data many times over with different thresholds applied to it to reach to a high quality data set in the end. So the speed at which you can run these ablations really improves the quality that you can reach at the end. So if you can use optimized software for processing this data, then you can run faster ablations, you can run more ablations before. Usually you have a time budget when you're training these LLMs, so to be able to run more and more ablations and to be able to iterate faster actually benefits the eventual outcome as well.
Love it. Thanks for those insights. Also, I wanted to learn a little about the use of Modin and obviously the Streamlit. So, and I met the Streamlit team there, so I was pretty excited about that. But also, can you provide like examples of using Modin and Streamlit in building open source AI application just for our developers out there in the audience?
Yeah, definitely. Just for the audience, Modin is a faster, more scalable version of Pandas. Both Modin and Streamlit are open source projects with key contributors and maintainers at Snowflake. So this is something that we're really excited about. Investing in the open source and making sure that we are building in the open and then giving back to the community. And so going back to the question around like how this feeds into like our open source AI stack, right? With Streamlit, we're seeing a lot of use in terms of like our SD.chat sort of functionality, which allows people to build chatbots. People can very quickly prototype. Now that we have our LLMs basically as an API, as a box, you can build on top of it. And with Streamlit, you can, pretty much hack up a LLM application in like less than 5 minutes. You call these applications. And one of the really cool things, call out to basically, I think about a couple months ago, the Streamlit developer team ran a state of LLM like survey, which surveyed like all of these Streamlit applications. I think like 20,000 or so like Streamlit applications around LLMs that are that have been built in the community. And there's a lot of like really cool insights around like what models are they calling, what are the key functionalities that they're using, are they using like text inputs and all of that. So it's really fascinating. I encourage everyone to go check it out in terms of what are the potential applications and what are people doing with Streamlit and LLMs.
I love it.
And then going back to Modin, again, Modin, faster scalable Pandas, it preserved the exact same Pandas API. And so we show in the demo today that, hey, like because Modin preserves the same API as Pandas, it inherits all the decades of like resources, community forum, all the stuff that is around Pandas. So most LLMs today, like whether it's Arctic or any of the large language models, are pretty good at generating Pandas code. And basically, you can copy and paste that Pandas code, add in Modin, import Modin .pandas as PD, and then basically scale up your code. So now it's you're getting both the ability to scale and also the ability for that code to be generated. So I think it really opens up, again, for application developers, data scientists, data engineers, to really accelerate and scale up those pipelines for whether it's processing your documents or like pre-training, all of that.
This is awesome. Thanks for sharing all those details. And obviously, I know how open source you are at heart when it comes to the community, and it always is helpful for the larger community out there. One last question for you and Yusuf is, so it's day 4, almost the end of the Snowflake Summit. So what's next? What's big that's coming up in your world? And how was the summit for you?
Yeah, no, I think there was like a ton of excitement. It's great to see everyone in the community, customers, developers. We have our dev day today, which is like a very special event. Like we've never had this before. There's so much like excitement and just people going around talking about open source, talking about like developers and what they do. In terms of what I'm most excited about, we had two really important product announcement for Snowflake that is near and deep to my heart. One is Snowflake Notebooks, which is an interactive, cell-based, interactive programming environment, which allows you to work with your data very easily, go between Python and SQL. That is in public preview now. It's an area that I'm very excited about, and I think there's so much more that you can do within a notebook. The second thing that I'm excited about is our Snowpark Pandas announcement.
Nice.
This is very much, very much built on our Modin open source, and being able to run the Pandas API, write your Pandas code, but we essentially push down your code down to Snowpark and to SQL so that your data never leaves Snowflake. It runs securely, it runs scalably within Snowflake. And so that's an area where we are now in public preview, getting a lot of excitement from customers, developers, and so on. So yeah, looking forward to both of those projects as well as a bunch of exciting announcements that we made at Summit this year.
Yes, love it. Yusuf, how was the conference for you?
It was great. It's always great to actually talk with customers and partners and connect with developers. Yes, yes. You get a lot of feedback and also realize where you can go from there. Basically, for me, we've talked a lot about talking with your data during the summit. We have two products: the Snowflake Copilot, and also a new product that we have announced, Cortex Analyst, that is going to PUPR soon. And Snowflake Copilot is going to be GA soon. So it's a very exciting moment for us because now we are getting these into the hands of the customers, and they are able to talk with their structured data through these solutions, and we are super excited to be able to get feedback from them and improve the systems around all of this even more.
Exciting times at Snowflake 2024. Doris, Yusuf, such a pleasure to host you both. Thanks for sharing all the great insights, and definitely looking forward to continuing all the talks and all the innovations. Once again, it's such a pleasure to host you on the Ravit Show.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.